Hey there, my name is ZW Buckley. I'm an artist who makes music for video games, VR, the stage, and I also write and release my own electronic music. I'm also an Ableton certified trainer, and today I want to talk about using delay to create really interesting, glitchy drum and percussive effects that really help you just take one drum groove and get a lot of extra mileage out of it. And the thing that really makes this possible is the expanded LFO capabilities that came with Ableton Live 12.4. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. So the whole thing that makes this technique possible is really the fact that delay has an LFO built in that is just far more advanced and sophisticated than it has been previously. Because being able to really intensely modulate this LFO and to change its waveform opens up so much possibility. And so I have this drum part that I want to use to create these textures, and it sounds like this. So I'm going to turn on delay. And the thing that we're going to really focus on is modulating a whole bunch of parameters and really making the most of the LFO that's built in here. So let's go ahead and group delay on itself. So that way it's in an instrument rack, and we want to go ahead and set up some macros. So I'm going to set my time to time instead of sync mode, and I'm going to decouple the left and the right channel. And so we're going to map each of those to macro 1 and to macro 2 respectively. I'm going to map the feedback to macro 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and map the LFO rate to macro 4. We're going to set the delay LFO modulation amount to 50%. We're going to set the filter modulation amount to 25%. Then I'm going to go ahead and select the waveform and map that to macro 5. I'm going to select the morph, and I'm going to map that to macro 6. I'm going to then select the filter frequency, map that to 7, the width, map that to macro 8. I'm going to set it to fade, and I'm going to turn on ping pong, and let's go ahead and set it to 100% wet. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and I'm just going to spam the random button on our audio effect rack so we can start to hear where we're going with this. So as you can hear, there are a ton of interesting sound and textures, and we want to capture those through resampling. So I'm going to insert a new audio track, and then I'm going to call it drum effects, and I'm going to route it to my drum track, and I'm going to catch it post effects. Now, one thing that I am going to do before recording is I'm actually going to go into my MIDI clip, and I'm going to mute my kick drum and my snare drum, because I'm going to want to start to build the glitches around the kick and the snare. And I want to be able to use these glitchy little percussive elements that we add in sections that are going to replace a lot of the elements that we hear and see in here already. So now let's go ahead and go back to our audio effect here, and we're going to go ahead and record some glitches. Okay, that's a lot of material to work with. Because now what we can do is we can go ahead and open up our take lanes for this track. So now we'll see all of the various recordings that we've made all right down here. So now I'm going to go back into my drum track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse what I've done here. I'm going to unmute the kick. I'm going to unmute the snare. And then I'm going to mute everything else. So now I've got this pretty simple kick snare pattern. Let's turn off this rack. and take a listen to this. So now I'm going to go ahead and just cut areas where there's overlap with any of the kick and snare from just this first couple of measures. So I'm going to narrow our loop down to just these 2 measures. So I like this last one here. And now I want to find a different one for this. So I'm just going to click down, hit enter. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's try that out with this. Okay, and this big chunk doesn't work for me. Now I can try to find another big chunk, or I can break it up into smaller chunks, which could be really cool. So just find one that starts off nicely. Okay, that little bit is cool. Let's find something for this chunk. Okay, I like that. And see what we've got for this big section. Let's go with that one, and let's keep trucking along. Cool. Heck yeah. Okay, cool. So taken all together, we've got this. Now, let me show you some things that I like to then do with this to really kind of smooth it over. One of those things is to go to the warp engine, and I like to go with the beats warp mode, preserve transients, but turn off the looping, and then tighten up the envelope about 25% to really maximize its percussiveness. And if some of them, like this one here, is a bit too rhythmically ambiguous, we can force it to a grid, like 16th notes, and tighten it up even further. Or even go 32nd. Yeah, cool. Sweet. And some of them, feel free to play with other stuff. Like I'll do envelopes sometimes, so it's kind of swell into this snare. Perfect. Because these sounds are so small and percussive, I really do like throwing OTT on them before any other processing. And I do that to really draw everything forward. I'm going to cut all the lows out of it though. I don't really want anything below 80 hertz hitting up in here. Sweet. And then you can do any other processing. I'll do a little bit of EQing here to really bring out some of this high-end info. And that's all I have for you today. Hopefully this inspires you to use delay to create more interesting textures and to get more musical mileage out of the music that you are musicking. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I'm working really hard to try to grow this channel to 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, and it is your support entirely that makes it possible. If you want to go a step further in helping to sustain the channel, consider joining my Patreon. I have 2 tiers for you. Till next time.